Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about my favorite, one of my top 5 favorite perfume brands of all time, at least in my current stage of perfume obsession, which is L'Artisan Parfumeur. I don't want to geek out too much and talk forever about the history of the brand and, and the great iconic noses that work within perfumers. If you're interested, we can maybe have a separate kind of theme, like a type of videos about that, about history of perfumes. Let me know in the comments below if that's kind of something that tickles your fancy. Today is just show and tell. I do love this brand. I have a vast collection, so without further ado, let's start from the first one that is here. Before we go any further, let's spend at least a second talking about the packaging. I know some of you don't care about the packaging or the bottle design or any of that. You only care about the juice. I consider perfumes to be a multifaceted creation, and I think packaging plays an important role in creating fragrance legacy and creating the right kind of fit and even impression of the fragrance of the juice that is inside. So most of my L'Artisan Parfumeurs I buy, if I can find it, in the older packaging, which is what you see here. So it's a transparent glass. This is basically a heptagon, it has 7 facets, and gold lid, pretty heavy. And it's not magnetic, it just snaps in. The newer packaging, and I only have one in the newer packaging, is darker, kind of it's got olive green color. The same shape. I think the form factor is the same, but here we have black kind of metal lid, and I actually don't know if it's in any way magnetic or not. I think it still snaps, but mine constantly falls off because this is very heavy. So, you know what? Let's start from this one then, since I only have one of those. So the newer version that a lot of people say didn't really suffer a lot from reformulation, because again, you should know if you're buying them in this kind of packaging, a lot of the fragrances have been slightly reformulated to adjust to the modern standards of ingredient regulations, and who knows why. just a bit of information if you're looking for second-hand purchases and things like that. Some perfumes allegedly suffered a lot in terms of the way that they move and open up, some not so much. I heard that the T for 2 that I have here didn't really suffer much from reformulation. So I spent crazy amount of money on it, to be honest. It's kind of it was a blind buy, and it's a bit of a regret personally for me, because even though it's a really well done, kind of a smoky Earl Grey tea smell, it's just, to me, it's not worth the money that I paid for it. And I have a fair amount of tea-like smells, and actually tobacco-centric fragrances can also kind of go that way toward kind of give you black tea or bergamot tea or Earl Grey tea kind of effect that I don't really feel I really need it. So if any of you actually were looking for it and want to get it from me or exchange for something, let me know. So yeah, one of the only one in the new packaging in my collection is T for 2. Very well done, smoky, a little bit softly spicy Earl Grey fragrance. But actually, originally I wanted to start from a kitchen spices line that L'Artisan Parfumeur issued, that I think I have, if not all, but most of them. Not very popular line of releases, which means you can find them for really good discounts online. So this is why I decided to start from them. Not as popular, not as many opinions out there, but at the same time I think they're worth at least noting to a certain degree. So the first one that I have here is Piment Brûlant, and this is essentially a olfactory kind of dream, olfactory journey that is exploiting the effect of freshly cut greens, like salad greens, and red pepper. This is a fresh but pretty long-lasting, actually, surprisingly long-lasting, because a lot of people complain that L'Artisans are too watercolorish. I find that even their lightest ones, which Piment Brûlant is like, again, a light green, a little bit herbaceous fragrance, it actually lasts on me full day. And on the clothing, even longer so, and on the hair. So yeah, if you're looking for a non-trivial green scent, I guess if we had to, we would place it in the Fougère family, right? But something that has kind of like this expected sophistication that we learned to expect from L'Artisan Parfumé, Piment Brûlant is a really good buy, and you can find it reasonably cheap. I mean, sometimes you can find 50 ml for like 40 bucks online. So highly recommend to you if you love fougères, if you love green fragrances, if you're more toward fougères, shippers, and kind of cologne types of perfumes, you're not a big gourmand lover. This is a really cool, I would say cool. It's not super essential or must-have, but it's kind of cool version of a green fragrance. Another one that I have from that line is Saffron Trouble. Here it is. So Saffron Trouble, from the same line, again exploits this idea of kind of kitchen smells. In here we have a very, almost like, this is the kind of spices that are so finely milled that you could like make a milkshake out of them. I don't know if you've ever had a milkshake that had spices in it, but that could be it. The saffron here is super nude, very smooth, almost creamy in a way. I call this my nude fragrance because I love finely milled, soft spices. This is like my comfort zone, probably. If any of you have seen my collection of nude fragrances, you probably already know. But if you haven't, you can watch it after this one. So this is definitely falls into that category. This I would call a true watercolor fragrance. I wouldn't really expect much of sillage or long-lasting beast power mode from it. This is not the kind of saffron that you should go for if you're looking for something punchy, powerful, and flamboyantly gourmand. Not your typical nude, spicy, very soft, spicy fragrance. And the last one that I have from that collection, it's a very new addition for me, this is a Pauvre Piquant. If anyone decides to go after me because of the way I pronounce French names, good luck with that. I do my best. So this is probably a cult favorite from this particular line because it mixes very, again, soft, kitcheny, kind of like black peppery spices with milk. Not the whipped cream, not any kind of souffle, not ice cream, but actually not even half and half, milk. And I spent probably a year looking for a perfect milk fragrance. I found it. I'll show it to you today, actually, in this video. It was not this one, but this is also another really good contender. To me, it's not the most realistic kind of frothy milk scent on the planet, but it comes very close. So if you're really curious about juxtaposition of slightly almost refreshing and slightly hot black peppery note that combines with softness of frothy milk, to me, again, there is some other notes that are kind of like on the background, sweet and somewhat almost floral. I can't quite say what that could be. Something semi-sweet and very delicate. So that was Passage d'Enfer. The next one that just looks at me and begs to be talked about is Allude. So this is L'Artisan's take on almost like mono accord oud. I have very difficult relationship with this particular one. The oud here is very clean. It's not too medicinal, but it's not gourmand. To me, it's very dry, herbaceous, kind of like herbal, and dry, almost as what I call bookish oud. Because to me, it reminds the smell of old paper in books. It's a little bit dusty. It's a little bit, as I said, green in a sense, but it's very dry, like almost something about it that makes me think of reading a book on a bunch of hay in the summer. It's cool. I like it kind of cerebrally, but when I wear it, it's just there's not enough contrast in it. I'm so used to L'Artisan Parfumeur always providing some kind of interesting twist or contrast in their compositions that here it's almost like mono accord. It's not, but like I keep waiting for something, for a twist to occur, and it's not there. So what I started doing, I layer it with fragrances where I don't really feel that don't have enough base to me, but they have beautiful openings. So the head space, right? Like not the head space, the head, like the volatile molecules when you first breathe it in are really amazing, but as the time goes by, there's not much there left after, let's say, an hour or two. So then if you add this kind of bookish, dry, intelligent oud, it adds more to the story. There's a little bit of experimentation that I still need to do with this fragrance. I did wear it by itself, and as I told you, I started layering it after a while. I don't feel ready to part with it yet, but I just must confess that it's not the most worn in my collection of L'Artisans. The next one, let's talk about these ones. This collection. So they had a collection of kind of emotional, I forget how it's called. It's like emotional fantasies, and even like as you get the box, it usually contains a little card that has kind of like trippy, almost psychedelic type of imagery that is supposed to represent the fragrance. In my personal opinion, this particular line, if you can still find it, is more potent and has more sillage, has more movement, it lasts longer. I wouldn't call it beast mode to be precise, but if you really want to compare it with some other creations, these type of bottles, the fragrances in these shape of bottles, they will be a little bit more punchy and they will last definitely longer, at least in my experience. So the one that I have here is a flop for me, to be honest. This is in a nutshell, it's called, let's talk about the name first. It's Onde Sensuel. It was a blind purchase for me. I think it was just completionist in me. L'Artisan Parfumeur does something to my brain when I want them all just to have them. It's not very common. It's actually not typical for my character at all to be a collector. But when it comes to L'Artisans, it's very hard for me to resist to not to get another bottle if I find it for a good price. So, Onde Sensuel in a nutshell is, like, if I want to like primitively describe the complexity and the beauty that is fragrance, is caramel with pears. So it gives a little bit of kind of this butter soda, kind of like orange cream soda maybe, on like, but with pear, kind of like a pear version of that. It's creamy, it's caramelly, but it's not too sweet. It doesn't really go too far into the contemporary gourmands either. So it's not the kind of liquid caramel that you find in majority of modern design fragrances. So the pear keeps it honest, I would say, keeps it interesting, but it's just neither pear or caramel are my favorite notes. So this is a very subjective judgment. It's just not my cup of tea. And I hope I'll be able to find a good second home for it, because it's a truly deserving fragrance of your consideration. The one that I actually bought also blindly in the same haul, but I love it. This is Haute Voltage. This is nails with apples, like metal nails, you know, the ones that you use hammer with. It's just so bizarre, and it's perfect for summer. I love apple as a note. To me, it's one of my like favorite sour, tart, a little bit tarty, fruity notes. I don't like lychee as much. I don't like... Okay, let's not talk about what I don't like. Let's talk about what I do like. Apples. I do like sour apples, sweet apples, this, that, anything with apple. I find to be very uplifting, refreshing, and, you know, like just soothing to my inner 7-year-old. But here, apple is taking to some kind of rebellion. It is almost some kind of like cyberpunk, because the metal note, these kind of almost rusty nails, it's so prominent, and yet it doesn't really overshadow the juicy and semi-sweet apples that it's very haute couture to me. And I think the name fits it very well as well. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the fragrance that took me the longest to actually get the hang of it. And this is Repel Tui. So you can see that the big bottles, I think this is, what is it, 125 milliliters. Oh, this is big. And this, I think, is 50. Is it? Yeah, this is 50. Oh, since we're on the subject of sizes, if I were to give you advice on what size to get, most fragrances are very overspray friendly, actually. So if you really want to control the kind of vivacity, like the volume of the scent on you during the day, I would recommend just to get a larger bottle, get yourself a small decant, and just carry it with you so you can refresh the scent. I find that the smaller bottles kind of, if you really fall in love with that scent, you'll use it up very quickly. For me, with my enormous olfactory library, I don't really need big bottles of anything, and I kind of really enjoy kind of like how dainty and beautiful the smaller bottles look. But, you know, it depends on like what you're looking for. So Repel Tui is a green fougere. It's caressed by some kind of alcoholic, maybe gin note, but it doesn't really remind me of a alcoholic drink or cocktail. I would say this is actually thick, kind of very opaque green fougere, one of the best representatives of its family. I only fell in love with it after I moved to Florida, because I, for whatever reason, became obsessed with shippers and fougères, and then I started digging it. I would dare say this is a must-have if you love fougères, because it has very strong character and unmistakable presence. I don't really know many fragrances that are like that, but if you're not into fougères, I would still recommend it, because you can find it really cheap, and this is a beautiful introduction to the world of all kinds of green fougere and herbaceous fragrances. The classical fougères, to separate them from shippers, usually shippers have a little bit of like they have citrusy or bergamot notes. Shippers have to be refreshing, and they can be even a little bit stingy. They can be a little bit sharp at the opening. A classic fougere is not supposed to be neither sharp, it's not supposed to be citrusy. A classic fougere lives almost predominantly in the heart, kind of gluing it to the base. And I find that Repel Tui is most of its beauty is in the heart, in the dry down, in the heart toward the base. Now I love it. I'm happy that I gave it enough time to just sort of just stay on somewhere in the back of my collection before the right mood and the right circumstances, the right environment, and it's just sparked my love for it. I highly recommend, especially given the fact that you can often find it for really, really good price. The last from this collection is my favorite milk scent. Here we have Amour Nocturne. I hear rumors it was discontinued. Don't quote me on that, I don't know. But I'm so happy that I got this bottle, and I kind of regret I didn't get a bigger bottle, though I use it very sparingly. So this, to my nose, is the best fresh milk out of the cow, kind of smell like frothy milk, that is combined, kind of like contrasted with gunpowder. Very curious and spicy effect. I don't really feel gunpowder as gunpowder, not that I'm a big expert. To me, this is again some kind of like black peppery spice that adds a bit of a backbone to otherwise very soft, soothing milk note. I love the milk note in here. Again, I don't know anything that even comes close to reproducing like fresh out of the cow teeth, basically, the kind of milk that I remember once drinking when I was like visiting my grandma in the village. So yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. Amour Nocturne, if you can find it, and if you love milky kind of lactone centric fragrances, that's the one that you just shouldn't miss. There's nothing like it on the market. The one that actually started my love affair with L'Artisan Parfumeurs. This is 50 ml, again, to show you kind of the contrast of the bottle sizes. 50 ml of Lambre Extreme. I actually have never tried Lambre, like just amber by L'Artisan Parfumeur, but when I got the extreme version, I fell in love with the scent and with the brand itself. To me, this is the roundest, smoothest amber fragrance on the market. It's a little bit dark and almost a tinge smothering because of kind of resinous, funky scents, almost kind of notes that are in the base of it, but it's so smooth, so heavy, so luxurious. There's nothing quite like it. My absolute favorite and one of the top amber scents. I think somebody asked me in the comments, and I think I shall do the top 10 amber fragrances video at some point, maybe at the end of summer, or like closer to fall, when it's kind of more appropriate, seasonally appropriate. But here's a spoiler, this is gonna be at the top. The Amber Extreme, specifically Extreme version, is just unbelievably well made. Unbelievably well made. Love it. Here's the one that is almost out. Can you believe it? It's just crazy. Makes me feel like anxious almost. This is Newarks Key. This is a very long-lasting perfume. If anybody tells you that L'Artisan Parfumeur cannot do long-lasting or beast mode perfumes, tell them to try Newarks Key. This is a delicious, slightly smoky gourmand. It has kind of the notes of almost burnt sugar. It's incredibly charming. It's not, surprisingly, it's not actually as heavy to my nose as Lambre Extreme, because there's something in the base of this amber fragrance that is just like granite. It's like so heavy but so smooth. This one, I would say a little bit more flirty. It's like a French dessert, if after like a long walk on Montmartre, like somewhere in Paris. It's like heavy, delicious dessert with almost like maple syrup. There's something here that is just unbelievably delicious to my nose. I love it, and as you can see, not much of it is left, so I probably should figure out what to do next. Maybe I should get myself a backup. We'll see. So Newarks Key, highly recommend to you. This is definitely a perfume that lasts up to a week on clothing, basically until you wash it. Let me show this little teeny tiny baby, because you can actually find some L'Artisans in the 30 ml bottle. Look how small it is. Isn't that cute? Let me show you again the comparison of the sizes. Oh, they're so cute together. It's like a family. It's like a family of L'Artisan fragrances. Okay, I should stop. Okay, so this one is Mon Numero 10. They had a collection of leathery fragrances, and all of them are to a certain degree similar and to a certain degree different. I only tried Mon Numero 10. I heard great things about Mon Numero 9. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. To me, Mon Numero 10 is a one of those kind of, again, very elegant but not very smoky, not very gourmand type of leather fragrances. To me, it kind of lays just a tad flat, similar to Allude. I can't quite figure out how to wear both of these on their own. They just don't quite have any kind of contrast or twist in them that I would be just looking for it, you know, when I wear it. The Mon Numero 10 to me is a very high quality, very decent leathery smell, but it just doesn't quite tickle my fancy. It's, I would call it good quality, like black leather purse, basically. It's not any kind of fashion statement, it's not super amazing, but it's something that you can just wear it with confidence and always feel that it's appropriate. It's very unisex. It doesn't really slide neither too harsh or too smooth or gourmandy, so it's right there at the very, very balance of craft and kind of like intelligent profiling of the blend. So for that, I can highly recommend it. And actually you can find the baby bottles, the 30 ml bottles of this line, Mon Numero 9, Mon Numero 10, I don't know, I don't remember how many others were there, for very decent price, as low as 35 bucks. It depends where, it depends where you look for it. Okay, we're like on the final stretch. This is a perfume that I highly recommend to people, even though it has very niche profile and not everybody likes it. This is Michele Loop. What is it called? Something wolf. Evil wolf? Michele Loop, in essence, is honey with hazelnuts. Yet honey here doesn't overly dominate the composition, so the fragrance never really turns too sweet, or it doesn't become kind of like amorphous and heavy as, for example, again, Lambre Extreme does. But I love it for it because it just unapologetically heavy and round and just lavishly smothering. This fragrance is way more narrow, is way more almost sharp in a way, and I think the fact that it's called Michele Loop kind of hints at that point that nuts here have teeth, and the honey here only plays a supporting role. I love Michele Loop. To me, it is the most ambitious non-gourmand that I've seen. It has a little bit of this kind of power suit presence, as I said, because it has teeth in it, but at the same time it's still a gourmand. So that's what I love about L'Artisan Parfumeur, that they always have this kind of twist or unusual movement of how the fragrance kind of migrates from one story to another, yet the blending itself is so impeccable that it still maintains a certain integrity of the blend. Love it, love it, love it. Again, I heard rumors that this might be discontinued as well. Don't quote me on that, but I love it so much that I wish that I actually had it in the bigger bottle. This one, note on longevity, this one also lasts a long time, and you don't want to overspray it. Don't do it, because there's going to be too much teeth to that honey. And the last fragrance, the one that probably is the most cult in my collection, well, it depends, but this one it has cult following. This is Mimosa pour moi, allegedly the best niche fragrance, kind of a soliflor that is based on mimosa flower. This one is creamy, powdery, soft. Most kind of mainstream mimosa scents that you can find in your like hairsprays or body sprays are going to be way more floral. They're going to be sweeter, or they're going to be fresher. It's very hard to find a mimosa that has a little bit of a kind of, again, twist or turn or grab that makes it unique and makes it still mimosa, but with, you know, with substance, with dimension. So here the mimosa scent has dimension, as I said, due to kind of some creamy powdery notes that envelop it. I really like it. I like it a lot. But to be completely honest, I still haven't found my mimosa. I want the mimosa that I remember from childhood, that it was almost bitter. It had so much zest in it, and there was something in it that made that fragrance kind of thick with the pollen and with maybe there's the other smells of spring that give a little bit of kind of like zesty, not tardy, but kind of like zesty, grabby feel to it. So that's the kind of mimosa I'm looking for. If you know of any options, please let me know. But Mimosa pour moi, a very prized possession, and paid way too much money for it, to be honest. But I'm very happy I have it now. Yeah, these are all my L'Artisan Parfumeur fragrances. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what kind of L'Artisans have you tried, what do you have in your collection, what's in your wish list. Let's share some of this kind of collective wisdom that we have in the perfume community. I'm very excited to see what you have to say about these fragrances. As I told you, I'm very biased. I'm just gonna disclose it straight up. I have long history with this. This was one of the first niche brands that I discovered when I got into this is how I got into niche type of perfume. So to me, I love the brand. I always want to try every new creation that they have, even though, as you probably have seen, some of them I like more, some of them I like less. I think there's not much surprise here about it. But yeah, as I said, I hope you enjoyed this little tribute, and let me know what kind of next collection video would you like to see from my collection, and I'll see you in the next video.